Stop for a moment and think about the last time you found yourself blaming someone else for feelings or faults that secretly felt uncomfortably familiar inside you. In my research of Carl Jung's work, projection is one of the most fascinating and deeply revealing concepts because it touches on how we often unknowingly cast parts of ourselves onto others. Jung observed that projection is a kind of psychological mechanism where aspects of our unconscious self get attributed to people or situations outside of us. But here's the catch, and something I want you to hold close as we explore this. Not all projection is bad or unhealthy. In fact, Jung believed there are ways projection can actually signal important inner insights if we pay attention. On the other hand, unhealthy projection can trap us in misunderstandings, conflicts, and a fragmented awareness of our true selves. In my experience studying Jung's clinical cases and writings, the difference between healthy and unhealthy projection hinges largely on awareness and integration. When projection is healthy, it acts like a mirror that gives us clues about parts of our unconscious shadow, those aspects of ourselves we have not yet fully accepted. Imagine a patient Jung once described who noticed feelings of envy whenever she saw a colleague's success. Instead of immediately blaming the colleague or feeling victimized, she allowed herself to explore what that envy meant inside her own psyche. Here, projection became a gateway, a healthy one, to self-discovery and growth. It prompted her to acknowledge unrecognized desires and insecurities. This kind of projection can be transformative because it helps us uncover hidden dimensions of ourselves, encouraging the individuation process Jung championed, the journey toward wholeness. Now let me invite you to put yourself in some common modern scenarios. Say you find yourself irritated by someone's arrogance. If you instantly write that person off as just arrogant and unworthy, unaware of what inside you might be reacting, you are slipping into unhealthy projection. This kind of projection is unconscious, rigid, and defensive. It refuses to acknowledge the shadow side lurking inside us, so it keeps us fragmented and in conflict, sometimes damaging relationships and our own emotional health. Unhealthy projection blocks empathy and understanding. It makes us prisoners of limited perception. Jung stressed that unhealthy projection often arises when we deny parts of our psyche, pushing them away and then seeing only the shadow in others. This can escalate into persistent blaming or paranoia, where the world becomes a threatening place because we are unwilling to face our own inner contradictions. After years of studying Jung's work, I've found that resolving unhealthy projection begins with developing what Jung termed ego consciousness. That is, bringing those unconscious projections into the light of awareness rather than reacting to them. Jung developed practical methods to help with this, such as dream analysis, active imagination, and careful observation of emotional triggers. For instance, if someone notices persistent irritation at another's behavior, Jung would encourage them to pause and ask what that person in them represents. What hidden vulnerabilities or rejected traits might be screaming to be acknowledged? Taking these steps turns projection from an unconscious trap into a conscious dialogue with the self. To apply this practically, first, cultivate mindfulness about your emotional responses to others, especially intense ones. Next, journal or reflect on moments when you feel judgmental or overly critical. Ask yourself what that reveals about your inner world. Finally, be compassionate. Jung reminded us that confronting our shadow requires courage but is also an act of self-love. This approach transforms projection into a healing tool, weaving disparate parts of the psyche into a more harmonious whole. In closing, Jung wanted us to remember that projection itself is not evil or purely negative. When unconscious and denied, projection becomes unhealthy, reinforcing separation from ourselves and others. However, when approached with conscious self-examination and courage, projection opens a door to profound personal transformation and richer relationships. If you find value in this exploration, please like or comment with your reflections, and subscribe because tomorrow we'll dive into how active imagination can transform your inner world, a key method Jung developed that builds directly on understanding projection and deepening your relationship with the unconscious. This next step is essential if you want to move beyond simply recognizing projection toward actively engaging with your inner life creatively and healing fragmented parts of yourself. Trust me, this is the next turning point in your Jungian journey you won't want to miss.